Hello there, Constantine here, le Foolosopher. Today I'm going to tell you about the importance of a good wife. Well, let me tell you a little bit about me. I'm Greek, I live in France, a big time in America, and now I'm in the Philippines. And I'll tell you something. Sorry, but by the way, Luna is slow motion sometimes. Oh wait, maybe she has a friend. Anyhow, to go to the point, all these years, in the West, especially with no father figure in the house, like most families, I have experienced, the dating world has become like a disaster. And I've been having many relationships, I'm over 50. I had many long relationships. And I noticed, I didn't know exactly what my role was because of lack of father figure and what I was looking for, because I didn't have understanding of family values and, pretty much the West. Greece, France, America, all falling apart. So it took me so many years to, find finally understanding, it took me, in fact, it took me after those relationships, all those mistakes, years and years, like 3-4 big relationships, maybe more than that, I had to finally break in my 40s, early 40s, and had time to think, spend time alone and think about, reconsider what the problem was. And I was always aware that, it was partially, the father figure lacking, but I didn't know what was missing and what was the problem. And I realized that after years and mistakes, and that's what I want to tell you about, is to resolve your problem in case you come across the same, so you don't waste your time, is that you have to know what you want. You have to know exactly what you want. And how do you do that? Well, you have to reflect. It's kind of like when you buy a car or when you want to buy a house. You gotta know where you want to be. What job makes you happy. You can't just get any job you comes across. I mean, maybe temporary, have fun, but you're gonna hate it probably, and it's gonna be. So if you take it like a job or like a house or like a car you enjoy, it doesn't have to be like a Ferrari. It can be like a car that you're, for example, let's say for me, I like Toyota, right? I like reliable. I like to get point A to point B. I don't care if it looks nice. So I'll buy a beater Toyota. I don't care if it's 100,000 miles or 200,000. I trust the car. I'll fix it. Right? Bam. So the same thing you have to think for a wife. And it's up to you. Like maybe some people, they like a Ferrari that breaks down every week, right, or a month, to show off. So if you like a high maintenance girl, go for it. If that's what you want, yeah, I'm not against it. But most people, especially if you want, to bring value in this world, like if you want to go to point B, right, and you want to get there, you need to get a Toyota, so you have to get a car, that you can trust, that has experience. So the same thing I did with women, I was like, what, I had to slow down, I had to take a big break, and I had to question, I was like, what do I want? But it's not like I want her to make this money or education and blah, 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 it's more like, what are the principles, the features, the most important thing that I would like in a person, right? Like, that I think would bring me in the best of my, my potential. Anyway, to go to the point, I said it 10 times. So, in my case, I had to put, like, for example, I want somebody who, hasn't have, 100 relationships, doesn't have any disease. So the reason is, like, for example, if somebody has a lot of relationships, it shows that they have not control. Because women, they have, many choices. Many guys can come and approach them, and they can say, they can have like one guy a day, right? Or maybe more than that. For a guy, it's work, right? So if a woman cannot control that, life is repetition, So you have no control. Guess what? When you marry that woman, you have to worry, you understand? You have to worry all the time. And that's what happened in my first relationship, my second. In fact, my first one too, I think she partially cheated with the kids in the bar because she was drunk or whatever. And the point I'm trying to say is that people live in patterns, and that's why you want to find something pure. That's why probably DiCaprio is dating less than 25, and no misogyny, no this nonsense, no. A woman, unfortunately, it's biology, right? Gets, has offers that men in 1 week should have more offers than a guy in a year or two. Anyhow, let me go by the point. which is, so I knew that, for example, I wanted something that doesn't, is not like, somebody I can trust, like the car. So number two, I wanted somebody who doesn't, complain, like I didn't want a competition, like, I didn't want to do it, right? So you don't want to have somebody who is a competitor, who makes more money, who, has the same, like, who wants to be a competitor, who's a boss baby, right? That's not for me, and I don't think it's anything, any real man wants, no offense, not, again, no misogyny, just basic, it's biology, right? You want something softer to complement, I don't want equal, I'm not gay, I want somebody to complement what I don't have, tenderness, understanding, mother figure, and unfortunately the West, with all this feminism, like everybody knows, all those misogynist videos, whatever, has gone too far, I mean, it has gone so far that transgender now is like, has gone out of control too, competing with men and women, and anyway. So, sorry, I get lost in my thoughts. So the point is that you want something to complement you, right? And so I had to find, those two conditions, right? I need those two things. Number one, like I said, to be, loyal. So it has to be fresh, like a fresh fruit. You don't want to have something, ripe, used. You don't want to buy a car that's abused, right? You won't go to a car, make a good offer if it's, being used by 10 crazy people, right? So 10 X's, bring drama, I don't need that. Number two, I wanted something that brings, compliments and not, no stress, extra stress or, fighting, like if you don't feel comfortable with that person, if you feel like you're, especially, and also that's important too, to match in the sense that there's no everyday, big drama. If somebody creates drama, when you meet them, stay away. That's why most people get one-night stands, which I'm not a big fan. I mean, I never even understood the concept. I realized why this happens because most women, are beautiful, but it's not for the long run. Unfortunately, in the West, it's a disaster. Dating I think it's like 60% of divorce, 70% in some places, or 80% some ethnicities. I'm like, Jesus Christ. I mean, what's going on? If somebody told you, I read somewhere, somebody sent the video, I think. If somebody told you the parachute 50% doesn't open, would you jump from the plane? You make a life decision. Your life decision. Probably the parachute is probably safer at that risk level to do it because at least this is the rest of your life. At least at the moment you die, boom, you're done. With a wife, you have to deal with years and years of back and forth, and lawyers and who knows what drama and kids in the middle and mother-in-law, who knows what what the hell, lawyers. Anyway, to go back to my third point, if there is any third, let me think about it because I go, as I think about it, I go. So anyway, I knew those conditions, right? So then the third thing I do is like vetting, right? It's like an interview. You want to interview the person, you take your time, you don't rush. So, and you open your mind, that's the thing, very, very important. Like me, for example, I was never into Asians, right? I never cared. And then one day I saw that, I try everything. I was like, I gotta open my mind because I always like trying to look, So I found this opportunity, I found this website. I'm like, it wasn't about Asia. I'm like, let me give it a shot. I went there and bam, I look around. And I started like, I gave 1 week to every person that I was, on the phone. Until I find, the one that, had the answers that I wanted to hear. If I hear like, they wanted money or, some nonsense or something that, they were needy or they had their priorities, themselves to become, like career, like study first and family second, it was not for me. So I think you have to clarify exactly. And when I say clarify, it's like be honest to yourself. Don't do like what other people do, your father did or whatever. Just do what you think will work for you, And I would tell you like, for me, there's a reason Toyota is number one. And not Tesla, you hear always like, although it's, I'm sure it's an amazing car. It's not the same, you understand? You want to have the best, the best of the best you can trust, like there's a thunder, there's a storm, like there's a video about Toyota where they blow it up. I think it's on I forget the channel. Oh man, it's a big channel, it. It will come to my head. They put it on fire, they put it under water, in the sea, they blow up a demolition building and the car still goes with a screwdriver and tape, they fix it, bam. That's what you want, your wife to be, this is a life commitment. It's like you buy a house for your life, you pay mortgage forever. So you don't want to fuck around, and most people, unfortunately, they take those things lightly, they just, party, they get drunk, they just choose whatever, they're desperate. And I used to be that guy. I was, dumb, young, dumb, as I say, full of whatever, understand, right? And then, your life goes by, years go by, and now, I finally have a kid at 50 plus. Yeah, because, I didn't know, so I'm trying to save you time and energy. So what you do then, once you have the information, right, you have these, tips, right, and you start you start searching, and, and take your time, don't rush, never rush, don't be desperate, ever. Trying to, excuse me, trying to interview them, take your time in the interview, it's not like, you're doing just have a good time, smile, make jokes, whatever, and see the response. See the person, for example, you don't want the person to take forever to respond to you, I'm giving tips like basic common sense, something you don't feel comfortable with. Don't, just cut them off. But you don't have to be like hysterical, like basic things, like the essence, you think like I said, like the car, the essence, It's like, for me, the car is this, is the engine, the oil change, the tires, what I'm saying, the safety, that everything, the seatbelts work, the basics, the wheel doesn't go crazy, the brakes, it's the basics, that's what you want, the basics. The basics that will get there, point B. Most people don't think that, they just say like, what, I just want to rent this car and I want to just have fun and we'll see, as it goes. And most likely, guess what, the car overheats, bam. I've been through hell with cars. So, and then I connected the link, after all those disasters. It took me, like I told you, almost 50 years to, in my 40s, I kind of start putting the dots together. Like I said, because I didn't have a father, I had to go from scratch and, ask hard questions like, what is wrong with me? What do I, and then I was like, wait a minute, what do I really want? What am I doing? What is that, Anyhow, so once, you do that, then I highly recommend, Asia for now. There are many benefits here. The women it's another breed, the culture, the morality, down to earth, easygoing, it's next level. I don't know what to tell you, only good things. It's, you'll feel like in paradise. They are jealous, they have, they're more sensitive, yeah, they are. They're not perfect, there's nowhere, we're on earth. But I tell you something, like the wife I have is like, no, you cannot find that in the West easily. There are, but I don't know where they are. deep somewhere, hidden somewhere. Because it's the social media, especially nowadays, and all these options, too many options, quick gratification. They can't control, the sex drives. They want to be bossy. They want to be, loud. They want to be, tough, and and men, I feel, that's why nobody, I heard like. Half women are going to be single in 2030, or maybe 45%. No kids. It's a disaster. The whole West is out of control. People lost their brains. And to fix culture, to fix mentalities, it takes generations. It won't be an easy fix. It's possible, but it would take 20 years. And it's kind of like the American economy. Give it 20 years, maybe. Look at Japan, 1990. Still struggling to figure out, and matter of fact now they have like birth rates lowest after South Korea, so things are not in good shape. So I meant Asia. I meant except those two countries, which unfortunately because they're too competitive, yeah, I would say maybe Thailand or Vietnam or Philippines, Cambodia. I don't know. I haven't been to all those places except Philippines where I am. So yeah, we say like just give it a shot, come visit. And maybe, you'll find somebody, here's for the long run. If you want to play around, stay in the West. Just have fun. Like I said, you want to have a Ferrari, stay there. You're just great. Stay in Miami, party, enjoy, the short-term one-night stands. If this is your thing and, you're a party animal, there are people like that, there are exceptions. But I would say most people don't want this. They want long run, they want families, they want values, they want long-term. They want to go to a long trip and have fun. It's a long journey, you don't want to be like Jordan Peterson said something great to a woman who was like, oh, I'm a successful, journalist. I'm 38, blah blah blah. I'm doing great. He's like, yeah, you're doing great. But he's like, but after 45, you have half your life, and it's gonna be a long. If you're single, it's gonna be a long time single, because then your career, all this, it won't be there. Things are gonna be gone. And trust me, I know my mother, she's single, she divorced, young, and her friends, she knows a lot of people very famous who are single, in the 80s, 70s. It's a disaster. I mean, anyway, I don't, anyway, you don't want to follow those steps. So it's also a wake-up call for the ladies, like, guys, you gotta, rethink, your role. I mean, it would take you, like I said, 20 years to, I don't know. I blame the parents. Like my father, didn't show, it wasn't there, so. And even if he was there, he was a bad person, so my father, it was better not being there. But what I'm saying is that you need to have good figures to give you, to give you direction. So if you don't, there's a lot right now. There's a ChatGPT, there's Google. I mean, you can do whatever you want. You have like Gemini. You have you have so many apps that can help you. So many videos on YouTube. I mean, so many people. I mean, that woke me up. Especially, I mean, in fact, it was research was partially in those videos that gave me so much enlightenment and hope that there's always an opportunity, but you have to open your mind. You can't just sit around. Anyway, I'm gonna let you with the last view, and we talk again. Luna, say hello.